Welcome to Business Success. Welcome to Business Success Tips, where we can learn to make more money in less time and have more fun. I'm your host, Paul Sanneman. I'm founder of Contractor Staffing Source, and we help contractors build great teams. I have Katrina Tecxidor. I'm going to call her Kat for now, and she's from COS Marketing, right?
Yes.
So give me a little about your background, Kat, and why people should listen to you in the construction industry.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I've been in marketing for over 10 years now. I've had my business for about 6 years. And I started out in the social media world. I didn't start in this industry thinking that I was going to own my own business. I got very savvy at social media, and I had people that were coming to me saying, "Hey, I need help doing this. Can you give me some tips?" And even back in the day, giving people a couple of pointers here and there, they were seeing results on social media. So one thing led to another, if you will. And now I have my own business, 40 plus million views online. So I would say that I definitely know a little bit about social media. Since we started our business, we branched out into other things like ad campaigns and SEO. And now I have an entire team by my side. We all work in the United States, and we all kind of have our own brands that we build and everything like that online, very community focused. And we work with a lot of construction companies and things that have to do with property maintenance. Where I'm here in Florida, everything's booming. There's a lot of industries coming here, a lot of growth in the area. So it's very good for construction companies. There's a lot of business out there, but it's hard for them to find clients, which is why I'm here.
So, Kat, what markets do you work in? Any place in the United States or mostly Florida? Where do you work?
Mostly Florida, just because the word of mouth carries a lot over here. But I've worked in, I think, 7 or 8 different states. As long as it's something US based, I could probably work with it. And because we work remote, we don't have physical
Okay. So you
offices.
basically work with anybody in the US, right? At this
Yes.
point? Okay, cool.
Yes, correct.
So
Yeah.
one of the questions always comes up for me in marketing is um, how this is open how much you spend on a car. How much of your gross budget, if you're a remodeling contractor or roofing contractor, different kinds of contractors, should you allocate toward marketing? I've heard everywhere between 2% and 15%. Do you have any opinion on that?
Well, oh wow, 2% would be pretty small. I mean, the only time I would ever spend something like 2% is if I already have all the clients I need. I just want to, get my, keep my name out there just in case. But even then, that's still pretty low. I would say somewhere, around 10 or 15% makes sense. There are certain clients of ours that will go upwards of 30% of their income, and that's because a lot of the work that they do, they could produce it pretty cost effectively, or they want to go really aggressive. And I've, at times, help them make those decisions, usually about 10 to 15%. You want to do enough where you could be dangerous, if you will, and get out there without going too hard on the gas. And it's really more about the consistency too. So that's something to keep in mind. You got to do this every single week. You got to be out there. You got to be posting and
Okay.
doing that
Now,
consistently.
there's a lot of debate. I'm going to put into building brand, which is website, all that kind of build brand stuff, and maybe being found on SEO and that kind of thing, versus pay-per-click or Google.
Yeah.
Do you have any ideas on how people should, divide that budget? Do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, so I think it's going to largely depend on that particular person's market, where they're located, who they're trying to capture. But I would say nowadays, overall, social media is becoming a much more important part of the discovery process, getting people to know who you are and what you do. It's increasingly important to Google search and what they want to see for your online ranking. And I would say some kind of healthy mix between that and SEO. What we're actually finding, and this is surprising, is we're doing less in ad spend for our clients. So a lot of this is getting more expensive over time. But as far as ad spend is going, a lot of our clients are shrinking the ad spend part in lieu of doing more organic social media posts and SEO by a wide margin.
Okay. And how do you tell if somebody's, I mean, ROI, the big question is, well, if I spend, pick a number, 5,000 a month where I'm spending or 10,000, how do I know it's working? I mean, how do you look at the ROI? Do you tell where the people come from? Do you tell how much they spend? How do you track all that stuff?
Right. So a lot of it is software and data and analytics, which, if you're working with us in particular or any other marketing company that's we're talking about actual marketing agencies here. There's freelancers, there's students, there are people that are doing this on a tight budget, things like that. But most marketing agencies like us, they have some kind of data and analytics to back up things that they're doing. But a lot of it is on the actual platforms. The social media platforms, your website, everything comes with its own data tracking system. A lot of it's quite good that's built in. So the client can track a lot of these things, and it comes down to a lot of it's just, a little frankly obvious, right? If they're getting calls, they're getting emails from people, they should see those connections start to flourish directly. They should be getting contacted to do estimates and things like that. So that's where a lot of it comes into play.
So, Kat, how do you measure the return on investment someone's spending in marketing? Do you have any formula you use, or how do you tell what's a good deal or not a good deal?
Yeah, so there's really no way to say, okay, if you spend this much and you do this, this is going to be the cause. If there was a clear-cut formula where if you do this, this is always going to lead to this, everyone would be doing it. I mean, my business might not even exist, right? Somebody would have a monopoly on this. It doesn't exactly work that way. A lot of it is kind of trial and error. You go in, you look, and you find out what's the best course of action, right? Based on my expertise. And then, there's a little bit of a gamble there, but it's usually something that works out in our favor. A lot of it has to do also with the client themselves. They have to be available when somebody's calling them. A lot of leads can be missed if you don't pick up by the third ring. They just go and they call someone else. They go down the list of Google. So ranking high means that you're going to get more calls, which means you need to have people available to take those calls. So we encourage people to maybe hire somebody to do that if that's not something that the client wants to do or can do. So there's just a lot of factors here. There's really no way to just point and click and say, hey, this is exactly the outcome that we're going to do. So usually we kind of say, okay, here's some different scenarios. This would be if we're going full tilt, this would be kind of more of an aggressive approach. Most of the time we opt to do something that's a little bit more streamlined than that and build ourselves up so we can grow over time. You do also need to get in front of people in a reasonable time frame so that they have time to know that you exist and even register what you're talking about. Your average person might see you online a dozen times before it occurs to them that who you are and what you do. Because it's there's a lot of coming and going online. People have a short attention span.
Now,
So I know
what
that's
about,
not I know there's not a direct answer, but it's just the
Louis said it's
way
hard to
that
tell.
it
Now,
goes.
question, do you think people should have a 24/7 answering service that just matters the answer between you, or
Not a
any
24/7
recommendations
answering
there?
service, but they need to be available to pick up the phone rather quickly and answer those emails, those texts, because a lot of people are different. A lot of leads are doing texts as well rather than calling. Especially people in the millennial world, they don't exactly like to call necessarily. They may want to text. So being available to answer those messages is important, and it's just going to depend on the client. Some of them, they don't do the actual estimates or any of the actual work, so that's easy for them. They can be their own answer service. If that's not their thing, they tend to forget it, or they're doing some of the work themselves, or they know at the time they're going to be at an estimate. That I think absolutely they should get help for that. And there's plenty of virtual assistants that should be able to do that rather well here or overseas for something like that. And it shouldn't be terribly expensive. I wouldn't know offhand because I'm not an answering service, but from my understanding, it's that part's pretty easy to solve if you can't do it yourself.
Now, could you give me an example of somebody you worked with, remodeling company, home service industry, and sort of how you interacted with them, what you did, and the results you got? You have to give the name specific. You can call ABC Construction, but I'm just curious how that has worked for you.
Okay, well, let me see a few things comes to mind, one of the things I want to talk about is actually a soft washing company, because I was just talking about them earlier, but we're talking about just specifically construction.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's take, for example, an underground construction company. Guy had worked for other companies his whole life, and then he wanted to, be his own boss. So we had to build his website from scratch, on WordPress, do his social media, his SEO, the whole 9 yards. It took us about, I would say, 30 to 60 days or so to start to get him ranking on the second to the first page of Google in his area. Also because underground construction specialty is a little bit harder to come by in his area. Not everybody's a specialist in that. And the biggest differentiator for him was the social media. And I find that that's true of a lot of construction companies. It seems to be something that's just kind of considered an afterthought. It's not necessarily
social
just
media,
about
be specific, you're talking about TikTok or Facebook or.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So Facebook and Instagram is one of those are two of your essentials, because you're going to have your widest audience there. TikTok, I would say probably we don't work with that as much, because that tends to be a younger audience. But I see value in every single social media site out there. I see value in every single one. I don't think that every single one is going to necessarily be a game changer as far as ROI, but anytime you can get your name out there, it makes sense. YouTube is a big one that a lot of construction companies are missing. LinkedIn, a lot of people understand the value of LinkedIn because it's a very highly regarded social media site, but they're not utilizing it properly. They're treating it like Facebook and Instagram when it's a whole different thing, and it's better more on the commercial side than residential.
How do you give an example how one would use LinkedIn?
Say that again.
How would you use LinkedIn? Give me an example of how that would work.
Well, I mean, again, quality and consistency of posts is important. You still want to be posting there frequently. LinkedIn, you want to incorporate your personal pages in there as well. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, some of these other things, you don't necessarily have to do that. LinkedIn, that is a big missing piece, that if you don't do that, you're not going to see the same kind of results. People want to connect with the
how does someone find you on LinkedIn? They put in, I'm looking for a remodeling contractor, or how does that work?
You could go on the search, but what most people do is when they're scrolling on their news feed, they see it there. So the algorithms know, especially with LinkedIn, the algorithms know the things that you're interested in and the things that you're looking up, right? Even if you're just searching for it on Google.
It's sort of like TikTok does the
is
same thing, right? They find out what you're looking for and feed you that stuff.
Everything that we do online is tracked. Every single thing that we do online is tracked. Even in an incognito browser, Google's actually kind of gotten in trouble for this, because in the incognito browser, they're not supposed to track you. They do, they just don't track you as much. So they know when you're looking up some of these services, or you're interested in these topics, and that's what gets shown to you on LinkedIn. And the more you engage in content, the more likely you are to see it again. So if you get people responding to a couple of posts, it kind of causes a trickling effect, not just on that site, but on other social media sites that you're on.
If I go on Google and I'm looking for a remodeling contractor in, Sarasota or wherever, Florida or something,
yeah,
it's going to start feeding me information about remodeling contractors in Sarasota. Is that the way it works?
Yes, especially if you're looking at that frequently, or you're spending time in that search rather than just kind of clicking it in and going out. Yeah.
Okay, so it will feed me whatever social media, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, it'll feed me information about what I've been looking for, right?
Right. Well, in particular, the sites that you are most active on, obviously, you're probably going to see more of that. Yes. And there's certain sites that are a little bit more attuned to what you're actually looking for, and not something random that is just throwing at you, making you, interested in the topic. LinkedIn is one of those things that it's doing it based on the things that you're actually looking for. We found that, and YouTube. for
So you
sure.
found now on YouTube, would you do like a video on how to remodel your kitchen or how to choose a remodeling contractor? That were to be short or long, or how would that work?
Well, yeah, you could do videos on that. You could do a video on the owner, just like a general service video on what they do, success stories, testimonials, anything you could think of, you could do a video on that. For a lot of companies, they do full walkthroughs on like how a service is done and all kinds of different things. What was the other question?
Well, I'm saying if you,
YouTube, the length of the videos, that's going to largely depend on what kind of content it is and the audience. I've done videos that are typically just a couple minutes long to 5 minutes long, but like if you see our YouTube channel, for example, I have stuff that's over an hour long, 2 hours long almost.
wow. And
Yeah.
so you find that people, is it they search for credibility, or they're searching for a product, or you just sort of get in their brain and when they need somebody, they call you?
All the above. All the above. I mean, the main overall thing that I'm looking for is just to get in front of as many people as possible, as often as possible. Case in point, it's really interesting because I don't often do cold calls. I do every once in a while just to kind of like keep those muscles worked, if you will. And when I do, even if I'm calling somebody I've never talked to before, once they start to hear my voice, they'll remember me from my videos. The way I talk in my videos is how I talk in real life, and they'll hear the cadence. They're like, I know you. And then they'll be like, oh, you're Katrina from YouTube, or I saw this video. So then now all of a sudden I'm cold calling somebody out of the clear blue sky, and they're like excited because they're a fan talking to me because I'm all over the place, and now I'm kind of getting in their head. So this has unintended side effects that can trickle on for months and months. We've worked with people 6 months, a year, 2 years, and after that they've gotten what they wanted and they're happy. But still, for years to come, they're especially if something like YouTube, they'll continue to get views from those videos again and again and again. That's why we post things that are called evergreen. That means the topics that are evergreen are not going to go away. They don't have a short shelf life. Most of the
So instead
content
of
that we
saying,
do
the
is
hurricane
not
of,
time sensitive.
2005, you talk
Mhm.
about remodeling in general, right? So
Yeah.
it's evergreen. Now,
Yeah.
it sounds like you found that building brand
Yes.
can best be done through social media.
That's the method that's worked for me the most. There's lots of ways to do it. SEO is good, ad campaigns still work, targeting is still good. But I found that there was such a wide range of ways that you could reach people on social media, and there's so many different sites and there's so much going on, but there wasn't enough people that were really taking advantage of it the right way and using it truly as a marketing tool. I think most marketing companies, they offer that as, okay, I'll just I'll throw a post up for you, fine, I'll take care of it for you, I'll make sure it's not inactive. And they're not using it as a brand building tool. And that's where I took advantage of that, I think, and
So
why
give me the
I'm
short,
different.
how does a remodeling contractor in Sarasota, Florida use social media to build brand?
Mhm. Customer engagement, posting videos of the work that you're doing, showing the transformation process from before and after. That's very important. A lot of people, they'll post pictures and there's a bunch of stuff going on, stuff all over the floor, but it's like, what am I looking at? Showing the transformation of what happened. Where was the customer? What were they struggling with? We've worked with people that they've had to come in because the previous person who was remodeling something did a botched job. So talking about that, building a story and building emotion, that's very important, especially with video. And that's another big thing that a lot of people are lacking. They'll have the before and after photo, or just a plain before and after photo, and that's fine. But the video and explaining it and building that as a thing, also having the owner speaking and talking about what happened is very important. Knowing who you're going to talk to, in these videos is good. Having the representatives of
So
the company that's going
where
to
do you
be
get
there
the
shaking your hand in
content?
the videos.
You get the content, you produce the content, they produce the content. Where's the content come from?
So most often they're sending me the videos and the photos that I'm using. I can film for them. Obviously, if they're in a different state or city, that might not be possible, you know what I mean? But yeah, more often than not, they're sending me the photos and the videos, and then I'm editing it for them, and posting it and managing it and doing all the strategy and, you know, the optimization for it, because you absolutely do have to optimize content on social media, just like you have to do optimization for search. And I do help them with how to film the video. I understand not everybody's going to know how to do it. It's easier said than done, you know, so I do provide some coaching, some social media coaching as
So
well.
you would say your real expertise is using social media to build brand, because I haven't heard that before.
Yes, that is for sure. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So if people want to get in touch with you, Kat, how do they do that?
You can visit us online at cosmarketingagency.com. You can also email us at cosmarketingagency@gmail.com, or call me directly on my phone at 407-334-9378.
Okay, great. Now, when you first meet with somebody, will you do like an introductory, like show them how they are or not using social media and what they could do to improve, just sort of give an overall kind of assessment thing?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, we did. The first meeting is we call it a discovery meeting. So we go through everything top to bottom, their website, their social media, their search presence, everything. And if they don't have that, some people, when they talk to us, they don't even have a website yet. We talk to them about what their goals are, who they're trying to reach, and we help them build their brand even from the first meeting. So before we start working together, at all, we know exactly what we're doing, what the plan is.
Okay, so if you guys out there are considering using social media to build a brand, I think Kat's the person to talk to for sure. So give her a call. Kat, I really appreciate you being here. And I think that's a different technique than a lot of marketing agencies have gone about.
Yes, for sure. Awesome.